You're hanging with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM.
I want my picks back, and I want David Putney.
And on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
All my picks back, and I want David Putney just because I feel like it.
You're out of your mind.
Yeah, I am. Haven't I proved that already?
Streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, and the X platform.
Josh Hennig back here hanging with you on 97.3 ESPN live from Margate Fun Fest. Beautiful day out here. Nice breeze coming off of the bay down here on Amherst Avenue in Margate with over 110 vendors. We are out here hanging out. And, of course, I had to play the outro for my guy Andy McNamara because it's his favorite movie, arguably, Draft Day. And, of course, Andy joins us each week to talk fantasy football. NFL Week 4, Andy. Who would have thought we'd already be here? And, Andy, I feel like there's more injuries than we could have planned for. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Listen, I always appreciate a little Sonny Weaver Jr. and David Bleepin' Putney because he feels like it. Best sports movie of all time. I'll stand on that. I'll die on that hill, Josh. But I'm doing good.
I don't know if it's the best sports movie, but it's definitely one of my favorites for sure.
It's dynamite. Watch it every draft day. But yeah, you're right, man. Hey, it's week 4. Listen, I'm still riding high. I was in Cleveland last Sunday when the Browns hit that 55-yard field goal and put formerly the best team in the NFL. Everyone crowned the Packers. Shut them down, and now they go into Detroit. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Well, to that point, let me just ask you a question about that really quick, okay? For you, Andy, again, for you, host of the Sick Podcast, Browns fan Andy McNamara, watching the Browns defense finally, they are who we thought they were a moment, right? You know, the Browns defense showing up the way they did.
Yeah.
Is that one of those things where you're like, hey, that's great. This is great. We're going to do this thing. Or is it like, that was one game, guys, relax?
Well, the thing is, it wasn't surprising the Browns' defensive effort because we've seen from last year, but with these new rookie additions early on, we've seen pieces of that. We've seen Carson Schwechter be an absolute bulldog, Clay Matthews-like. You've seen Mason Graham, which, Josh, we were on, doing the draft show, right, and talking draft and all that, and when the Browns traded that second overall pick, traded away Travis Hunter, I was furious. I was beside myself. Now you look at what Travis Hunter has done, which has been kind of nothing, and Mason Graham has been an absolute difference maker, and you see when the attention has to be made to him, Myles Garrett is feasting. So that defensive effort didn't surprise me, and I think there is more to come. So that's going to be the norm. The question for the Cleveland Browns is, can they score any points? That's the issue.
I mean, and I think that's where the fantasy football conversation comes in with Andy McNamara here at AndyMC81 on the Twitter X platform, at AndyMC Sports on Instagram. Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Harold Fadden Jr. These are all guys that people picked up in their fantasy football drafts. And right now, all three of them, they're not giving you much, Andy. They're not doing much for you. So if you're a fantasy football owner, like, for example, I've already benched Njoku in my one league. I just can't do it anymore. Yeah. And it's very frustrating, Andy, because we're in a world where the tight end position, like, I remember the good old days. Remember when we were younger and the tight end was like the premier fantasy football position? Now it's like, can I get anybody to score 10 points? Like, I mean, Sam Laporta is averaging 9 points a game, and cracked 10.
Right, and that's unfortunately following a trend that we saw last year with him. Travis Kelce is toast as a premier fantasy contributor. I'm with you. I had David Njoku, and unless you have no other option, he's almost not playable. But then we say that, and it's like, well, then you can just go pick up another guy off waivers who's also not playable. So, like,
right,
like, at least there's the potential with David Njoku. We just have not seen it. Harold Fadden Jr., I would not be cutting him. I would be keeping him. He is just impressing all over the place. But the problem has been the Browns' offensive line. Comes back to that. DeJuan Jones, starting left tackle, first series against the Packers last week, busted his leg up, out for the year. So now the Browns had two backup tackles, and Joe Flacco, not the most mobile, has no time to get rid of the ball. So if Jack Conklin comes back this week, that solidifies it a little bit. They have to start getting the ball because, man, I saw some plays, Josh, where Isaiah Bond, who we talked about as a fantasy sleeper, wide open downfield. Jerry Jeudy, wide open. The problem is guys are in Flacco's face too soon, so we can't get there. One fantasy contributor, and we were saying you got to wait and see and pick up later in drafts, and whoever listened is going to be very happy now, last week, and moving forward. Quinshon Judkins. What a beast.
Andy, with the Browns, let's move away from them for a minute because obviously there's only so much you can do with a team like that. Also, in part because you mentioned the offensive line, the quarterback, there's limitations there. But let's talk about some other positions because I think one of the big fantasy football news this weekend is Washington because Jaden Daniels not playing again. Marcus Mariota played good, not great, played good. But no Scary Terry. Terry McLaurin out indefinitely. So now Mariota, his value goes down. The Washington offense value goes down. Is that a situation where if you're a Deebo Samuel owner, you're saying lean in heavily or play carefully?
Oh, well, if you look, only guy. He has to be. Now, the question is, the other teams know that too, right? So, whereas Terry McLaurin, even though he wasn't getting the, let's say, production we wanted, at least had to be accounted for. And now you have the Falcons who were embarrassed, right? Like, Josh, I saw the highlight. I still have no idea how they lost 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers. I don't, like, I saw it and I still don't know. I think it was so baffling. They're embarrassed. An embarrassed team can be dangerous or it might fold up shop, right? It's tricky. So if you're the Commanders, what do you have to go with when it's fantasy football? Well, you got Deebo Samuel for sure. Krosky Merritt is questionable. Then you're just guessing at running back Rodriguez and McNichols. Noah Brown is even out, and we weren't excited about him. I think there is a big opportunity to swing it back to the tight ends. Zach Ertz, old friend of Philly, right? Zach Ertz has quietly, Josh, had a very nice, solid, and for a tight end in fantasy football, very good season so far. Like if we look at it, I'm just pulling up his fantasy stats here, so we got him PPR. Last week, not the best with Mario, but 3 for 3, caught all of them. First 2 weeks, each a touchdown. Target share, 5 and 8. Mariota has to go to Ertz, right? It seems like he has to, or you're going to be we're not starting, Luke McCaffrey's there, maybe. We're not starting him, Chris Moore. Like, there's not a lot of options. It's Deebo Samuel and Zach Ertz, man.
Andy, let's look around as well. Some other injuries. We got the news, by the way, today. Fantasy football news as well. Justin Fields will play Monday night. And I think it's very significant because if you're one of these people who you lost Joe Burrow, you lost Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks are dropping left and right. The Dolphins are one of the worst defenses all the football. My Football Friday show last night, I picked the over in the Dolphins-Jets game because you got two coaching staffs that like to be aggressive offensively. So for you, Andy, are you looking at Justin Fields as a potential streaming option Monday night for the people who you lost Joe Burrow, you lost Jaden Daniels, you're losing guys? Is he, or maybe you put him out there instead of Aaron Rodgers, right? Is Justin Fields a guy that you're rolling with Monday night?
Have to. Mainly because of his legs. Real life Justin Fields, love him because he's a former Buckeye, but man, he's not a good starting NFL quarterback. But we don't care about that in fantasy football. Can he get me points? Yes, sir. You can run it. You can chuck it up. And in the one full game he played, he looked great with fantasy-wise against Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Coming back against Tampa Bay, whose offensive line, little bit struggling. Does that mean that Baker's going to have to get rid of quicker, jack up the score a little bit more, right? Like, I think Justin Fields is a great stream. My top guy, though, if you want a little safer floor, Geno Smith. It's got to be Geno Smith. He's had a stinker, but this dude is your, meat and potatoes, 18 fantasy points type of thing, right? He might pop. Could have a dud. I'm not saying he's invincible, but Geno Smith is just as safe a pick, a stream as you can get, and he's a free agent in 50% of ESPN leagues, Jeff. 50% you can still get him. What's he do? First week, 18.48 points. Chargers, 6.2, terrible. Bounces back 26. Against Chicago, that's going to be high scoring. They're going to be flinging it. Give me some Geno.
Interesting. You're going with Geno Smith,
Go with
Andy
Geno.
McNamara, Andy MC81 on the X platform at Andy MC Sports on Instagram. The Sick Podcast every Sunday morning. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends. And Andy joins us each week here Saturdays, hanging with Hennig, as we're broadcasting live today from Margate Fun Fest on Amherst Avenue down here in Margate, right on the bay. I got the bay breeze blowing behind me here.
Oh, nice.
So it's a good time. So, but interesting you mentioned Geno. So you're going Geno over, let's say, a Carson Wentz?
Yes.
Wentz looked pretty good last week, and Kevin O'Connell made a very interesting point this week. I saw the interview on the Pat McAfee show. KOC said, I'm asking Carson Wentz to be a point guard. We're not asking him to win games. So, is Carson Wentz a point guard good enough for fantasy football distributing, or are you saying, I'm not depending on doubling games for fantasy football wins?
Yeah, you're international. It's Carson Wentz, and point guard is another word for game manager. Those are 3 fantasy no-nos, man. Come on. Like Carson Wentz, people are like, oh, look at the score. Did you see 2 defensive touchdowns? Right. Carson Wentz may be able to help the Vikings limp through J.J. McCarthy, who's still an unknown commodity, let's be real, through that stretch. But as good as that game was, 48 points, he scored 15.3 fantasy points. Now, you're not going to have a better week than that as far as overall point totals for the Vikings. You're playing Pittsburgh, whose defense is always tough. Real life, Carson Wentz may be able to get you through. Fantasy-wise, the peak is going to be 15 points. I would rather roll the dice with an Aaron Rodgers who got you 12 points last week. But certainly a Geno Smith. I wonder, Josh, what do you think Jackson Dart getting the start in New York? These rookies, first time out, anyone see them? It's usually a bit of a feast or famine, right? Either they're like, wow, overreaction, or uh-oh, not so good.
Oh, this is the easiest question you could ever bring up. I've said this multiple times. Jackson Dart is going to be destroyed tomorrow. Like, that Chargers defense is going to come for him. I think it was the Giants are obviously so desperate and they're so, like, trying to save their jobs that they're sacrificing their first-round pick to one of the best defenses in football right now. I think the Chargers are going to absolutely crush him. And don't forget, the cornerback Stills for the Chargers, second-year corner, do you know where he's from?
No.
South Jersey.
Oh.
He is going to have family and friends there because, for those who don't remember, the Giants had a chance to draft him. The kid from New Jersey, they could have drafted him, and they didn't. You don't think Stills is looking around being like, I'm going to intercept this stupid little Dart kid in this game? You don't think the Chargers are not going to come get that guy? It's bad enough the Giants have a bad offensive line. It's bad enough that Tracy is injured, right? And don't tell me that the Giants had to make this move. They could have waited one more week. They could have put Jameis Winston in there. They could have started Dart next week against the Saints. Saints are not a good defense.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think if you are streaming defenses, Andy, Chargers, stream them, start them, lock them in. I wish I had my button. I could press Stone Cold Lead Pipe Lock of the Century of the Week. Like, to me, I think Dart is going to look bad tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on the decision to start it. And it's clearly Daboll is in desperation mode, right? Like, he has to show some significant progression of Dart to maybe save his job. Maybe.
Yep.
Right? I'm with you. Throw Jameis in there. We saw Jameis with the Browns last year. The dude's fun. It's a good time. Gets everyone jacked up for 1 week. Then you put him in against the Saints. You know, fantasy streaming option, a little Scatterboo interest you, Josh? No Tracy, a little Scatterboo? I think they're going to get down, and Scatterboo's going to be relatively irrelevant because they're going to have to play catch-up, and it's going to get ugly. I'm totally with you. Streaming option there. But if you do think, I kind of like Jackson Dart, maybe just not this week, now's the time to pick him up before the Saints, right? Pick him up, bench him, wait and see, right? Pick him up, bench him. You know you got some wide receiver you're never going to play on your fantasy bench. Pick him up, park him. Maybe you see some things even in a loss. Oh, he's looking good moving around or whatever. Who knows, right? So that would be the strategy for Jackson Dart. But, man, It gets thin real quick at quarterback. And look, I'm not totally writing out Jake Browning for the Bengals. This guy's a wild man. Total stinker, I know.
I was going to ask you about that.
Total stinker. But I think there's still time. Like, he's going to surprise. The problem is we got to see him do it before we can put him in. And it's against Denver in Denver. That's not the time to do it. Then you're hosting Detroit. That's probably not the time to do it. Then you got Green Bay with Micah Parsons. Maybe that's not the time to do it. Pittsburgh and the Jets. So it's like all over the place. And I got to say, I don't think Micah Parsons is 100%, Josh, just for those streaming Green Bay defenses. He limped off the first play versus the Browns last week and was a non-factor the rest of the game. It was supposed to be like Parsons versus Myles Garrett. Parsons didn't do squat. So if you're streaming Green Bay defenses, I would just keep that in mind.
Well, he did have that back procedure where they were helping his back before the season. So
yeah,
epidural
stuff.
I think Parsons, they're going to have Parsons ready to go tonight. Tomorrow night. That's going to be, hey, Jerry. They're going to show Jerry on television every time he gets a sack. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Micah gets like 2-3 sacks. And remember, the Cowboys got 2 offensive linemen tomorrow night. So no bueno for Dak, and also no CD Lamb. Don't forget about that. So it's not going to be a good night for Dallas. Before I let you go, because you mentioned about Jake Brown, I was going to ask you about that. So what are you telling the owners of the receivers, though? Because T. Higgins, I started him last week. He did nothing for me. I benched him. I'm done. Like, I can't. You got to show me before I put you back in the lineup. Are we concerned? Because remember, we were talking about Wentz to Jefferson. How is that going to work? Well, it seems to be okay, right? But now we got Browning to Chase and Higgins. What are we doing here, Andy?
Yeah. The problem, similar to Jefferson, I think the alpha, the number one, is going to be fine-ish. Now, when I say fine, you're going to see a drop in fantasy points. You are. When Browning came in, the last time he filled in for Burrow in 2023, we saw a significant fantasy point drop for Higgins, and I believe up to 7 per game on average for Chase. That still meant Chase was getting you in the mid-teens, which for a normal receiver is good, but not for a guy who you picked first or second overall, right?
Right.
That's just, Higgins, if you can afford to bench him, I think that's a smart play. As always, depends who do you have else coming in. The waiver wire is so thin, man. Like, it is dog. It is. This I think, going into 4 weeks, might be the worst selection of waiver wire options. Usually I can find some scrounge, receiver pop. It is just a dog's breakfast. There's nothing there. So it's tough. If you got somebody sitting there, do it. But otherwise, with Chase, man, you're just gonna have to be like, all right, you're gonna give me 15 fantasy points and hope for the best.
He's Andy McNamara. Of course, we talk fantasy football with him every Saturday here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN at AndyMC81 on the Twitter X platform. Hashtag Ask Andy for your fantasy football questions. Of course, at AndyMC Sports on Instagram. And then tomorrow morning, the Sick Podcast. What do you got going on, Andy?
Oh, man, we are live at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. That's on YouTube, on X at Sick Pod Browns, Instagram, as you said, at AndyMC Sports as well. So that's where you send in your questions. Use hashtag Ask Andy. You can jump live in the chat. Love the live listeners. Jump in the chat, ask your fantasy questions, or hit us up on social at AndyMC81 on X at Sick Pod Browns. Get the questions in. Pop them up on the screen. We ask. We'll do Browns-Lions preview, which is going to be fun, and the parlay party where we build our ultimate betting ticket. We do like 12-leg parlays. One of these days we're going to hit it, Josh, but we go through, have a ton of fun on it. Going to be a great time. And for some fun horse racing content, I got the hat on. Railbirds, at my Railbirds on all socials. Up now, you'll see me wearing a nice DDP yoga shirt on this week's episode and talking some trash on the horse racing side. So have some fun with it.
I love it. Andy, always appreciate you jumping on. Enjoy the football weekend. We'll talk soon.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon. See ya.